Rome was the greatest republic the ancient world had ever known. It conquered kingdoms, built mighty armies, and ruled millions of people. But one man would change its destiny forever. He conquered lands no Roman had ever imagined. He crossed a river that no general was allowed to cross. He became the most powerful man in Rome. Yet in the end, he was betrayed not by foreign enemies, but by the men who stood beside him. His rise transformed the Republic. His death gave birth to an empire. This is the story of Julius Caesar. Chapter 1. The boy destined for greatness. In 100 BC, a boy was born into one of Rome's oldest noble families. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar. Although his family claimed descent from Venus, the goddess of love, they were far from the wealthiest or most powerful family in Rome. Caesar grew up during a time of violence, political corruption, and constant power struggles. The Roman Republic was becoming increasingly unstable. Ambitious generals fought for influence. Rival politicians turned the Senate into a battlefield of words and ambition. As a young man, Caesar witnessed the brutal dictatorship of Lucius Cornelius Sulla. Thousands of Sulla's enemies were hunted down and executed. Caesar himself became a target. Ordered to divorce his wife because of her political connections, he refused. It was a decision that nearly cost him his life. Forced into hiding, Caesar escaped Rome while Sulla's soldiers searched for him. Influential friends eventually persuaded Sulla to spare the young nobleman. But as Caesar walked away, Sulla reportedly warned, "In this young man, there are many Marises." He believed Caesar would one day become an even greater threat than the enemies he had defeated. History would prove him right. Chapter 2. The First Triumvirate. Escaping Sulla's wrath was only the beginning. Caesar returned to Rome with ambition, intelligence, and an unshakable belief in his own destiny. He quickly gained a reputation as a gifted speaker, a skilled lawyer, and a rising politician. But in Rome, talent alone was never enough. Power belonged to those who had wealth, influence, and powerful allies. Caesar understood this better than anyone. In 60 BC, he formed an extraordinary political alliance with two of Rome's most influential men, Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, and Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, better known as Pompey, Rome's greatest military commander. Together, they created what historians now call the First Triumvirate. It was not an official government. It was a private agreement between three ambitious men determined to dominate Roman politics. With the support of Crassus and Pompey, Caesar was elected consul in 59 BC. But while many celebrated his victory, others feared what this alliance would mean for the future of the Republic. They had every reason to worry. Caesar was already looking beyond Rome. His eyes were fixed on a land to the north, a land called Gaul. Chapter 3. The Conquest of Gaul. With his position in Rome secured, Caesar turned his attention north. Beyond the Alps lay a vast and untamed land, Gaul, home to hundreds of Celtic tribes, fierce warriors, skilled horsemen, and proud leaders who had never bowed to Rome. In 58 BC, Caesar was appointed governor of Gaul, but governing the province was never his true ambition. He saw something greater: glory, wealth, and an opportunity to build an army whose loyalty belonged not to the Republic, but to him. Year after year, Caesar led his legions deeper into enemy territory. Rivers were crossed, forests were conquered, mighty fortresses fell before the disciplined Roman army. His brilliant tactics turned impossible battles into legendary victories. Tribe after tribe surrendered to Rome. Yet one final challenge remained. A young chieftain had united the tribes of Gaul under a single banner. His name was Vercingetorix, the greatest enemy Caesar would ever face. Chapter 4. The Battle of Alesia. In 52 BC, the fate of Gaul would be decided. Vercingetorix had united tribes that had fought each other for generations. Together, they launched a massive rebellion against Rome. For the first time, Caesar faced an enemy capable of matching his determination. Vercingetorix withdrew his forces to the fortified hilltop city of Alesia. Many expected Caesar to attack immediately. Instead, he chose a strategy that stunned both friend and foe. Rather than storm the fortress, Caesar ordered his men to surround it. The Roman legions built miles of walls, trenches, towers, and deadly traps. Alesia was completely cut off from the outside world. But the battle was far from over. A massive Gallic relief army soon arrived. Caesar's soldiers found themselves trapped between two enemies. One army inside the fortress, another outside the walls. Outnumbered, surrounded. Yet Caesar refused to retreat. His discipline, engineering, and leadership held the Roman lines together. After days of relentless fighting, the Gallic assault collapsed. Vercingetorix knew the war was lost. He rode out from Alesia, removed his armor, laid his weapons at Caesar's feet, and surrendered. With the fall of Alesia, Rome had conquered Gaul. Caesar returned to Rome not only as a victorious general, but as the most powerful man in the Republic. And that frightened many. Chapter 5. Crossing the Rubicon. Caesar's victories in Gaul transformed him into Rome's greatest general. His wealth had grown. His army was fiercely loyal, and his fame had spread across the Republic. But in Rome, many senators feared that Caesar had become too powerful. Led by Pompey and his political allies, the Senate ordered Caesar to give up his command and return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar understood exactly what that meant. Without his army, he would lose everything: his power, his influence, perhaps even his life. On a cold winter night in 49 BC, Caesar arrived at the banks of a small river, the Rubicon. By Roman law, no general was allowed to cross it with an army. To do so was an act of rebellion. Caesar paused. His officers waited in silence. The decision before him would determine the future of Rome. Then, according to ancient tradition, Caesar made his choice. The die is cast. He led the 13th Legion across the Rubicon. There was no turning back. Civil war had begun. Rome would never be the same again. Former allies would become bitter enemies. And one final confrontation awaited: Caesar against Pompey. Chapter 6. The Roman Civil War. The crossing of the Rubicon plunged Rome into civil war. News of Caesar's advance spread rapidly across Italy. Panic swept through the city. Pompey and many senators fled Rome before Caesar's legions could arrive. Without a single major battle, Caesar entered the capital. But the war was far from over. Pompey gathered a powerful army in Greece. Determined to end the conflict once and for all, Caesar pursued him across the Adriatic Sea. In 48 BC, the two greatest commanders of their age finally met. On the plains of Pharsalus, Pompey commanded the larger army. More cavalry, more soldiers. Many believed Caesar had no chance of victory. But numbers alone do not win battles. Caesar trusted the discipline of his veterans. At the decisive moment, his hidden reserve struck Pompey's cavalry and shattered the enemy's line. Panic spread across the battlefield. Pompey's army collapsed. Defeat was complete. Pompey fled to Egypt, hoping to rebuild his strength. But he would never command another army. Shortly after arriving, Pompey was assassinated by order of the Egyptian court. When Caesar reached Egypt and was presented with Pompey's severed head, he did not celebrate. Instead, he turned away in silence. His greatest rival was gone. But new challenges were already waiting. In Egypt, Caesar would meet a queen whose name would echo through history: Cleopatra. Chapter 7. Caesar and Cleopatra. After Pompey's death, Caesar remained in Egypt. The kingdom itself was divided. Cleopatra and her brother, Ptolemy XIII, were locked in a bitter struggle for the throne. Forced into exile, Cleopatra refused to surrender her claim. According to ancient tradition, she secretly entered the royal palace, hidden inside a rolled carpet. When the carpet was unrolled before Caesar, a young queen stepped forward, intelligent, fearless, and determined to reclaim her kingdom. Caesar quickly recognized her remarkable political skill. Their alliance would change the future of Egypt and Rome. Together, they defeated the forces of Ptolemy XIII during the Alexandrian War. Cleopatra was restored to the throne. Caesar remained at her side for several months. Their relationship soon became one of the most famous in history. In time, Cleopatra gave birth to a son, Caesarion. But while Caesar was building new alliances abroad, Rome was growing increasingly uneasy. Many senators believed he had become too powerful, too ambitious, and perhaps a king in everything but name. Honors were poured upon Caesar. He was declared dictator for life. But with every new honor, the fear inside the Senate grew stronger. Chapter 8. Dictator for life. Victory followed Caesar wherever he went. His enemies had been defeated. His authority stretched across the Roman world. The Senate rewarded him with honors unlike any Roman before him. Triumphs were celebrated in his name. Statues of Caesar appeared throughout the city. His portrait was placed on Roman coins. Finally, the Senate proclaimed Julius Caesar dictator for life. For many Romans, he was the man who had restored peace after years of civil war. But for others, he had become something Rome had always feared: king. Caesar rejected the royal title, yet his growing power made many believe that the republic itself was dying. Behind the marble walls of the Senate, secret conversations had already begun. Old allies, respected senators, even trusted friends, started to believe that Caesar had to be stopped. Among them was a man Caesar trusted deeply, Marcus Junius Brutus. The conspiracy was growing, and the Ides of March were approaching. On March the 15th, 44 BC, Rome would witness one of the most famous assassinations in history. Chapter 9, Part 1. The Ides of March. Rome stood at the height of Caesar's power. Yet behind the marble walls of the Senate, another power was quietly rising. A conspiracy. More than 60 senators had sworn a secret oath. They believed they were saving the Republic. Among them was Marcus Junius Brutus, a man Caesar trusted. As the Ides of March approached, strange warnings began to surround him. According to ancient tradition, a soothsayer urged Caesar, "Beware the Ides of March." The night before the Senate meeting, Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, was troubled by terrifying dreams. She begged him not to leave home. For a moment, Caesar hesitated. But Decimus Brutus, one of his most trusted supporters, convinced him that the Senate was waiting. On the morning of March the 15th, Caesar walked through the streets of Rome, toward the theater of Pompey, where the Senate was meeting. Citizens stepped aside as he passed. His loyal guards remained outside. Inside the chamber, the conspirators quietly took their places. Every glance, every whispered word, brought them closer to the moment they had chosen. Caesar entered. The senators gathered around him. One of them stepped forward, pretending to present a petition. Then, another seized Caesar's toga. In an instant, steel flashed beneath the marble columns. The first blow had been struck, and Rome would never be the same again. Chapter 9, Part 2. The Fall of the Dictator. Caesar stumbled, bleeding onto the cold marble. He turned, searching for a friendly face among the blades. Then, his eyes met the final conspirator, Marcus Junius Brutus, the man he had loved like a son. Caesar stopped fighting, covering his face with his toga. His final, heartbroken words echoed through the chamber. Et tu, brute. Under 23 stab wounds, the master of Rome collapsed at the base of Pomp's statue. The conspirators raised their bloody daggers, shouting, "Liberty!" But as the echoes of their shouts died down, a suffocating silence filled the room. They looked at the blood on their hands and realized what they had truly done. But outside, the roaring heart of the Republic was about to burn. Would you betray your best friend for an ideal? Was Brutus right? Let's discuss in the comments.